Hey everybody, welcome to the Commercial Kitchen. My name is John here with Seattle Coffee Gear, and we're doing something a little bit new or something that hasn't been done in a while. We're doing a crew comparison of two commercial espresso machines. So with me today, I have the La Marzocco Linea PB and the Rocket Espresso R9. These machines are pretty similar. They're also different in some ways. So we thought it would be helpful to do a quick comparison of them and talk about some of those differences. We'll jump in a little bit and talk about each machine separately, and then at the end we'll do kind of a head-to-head and see how they match up. Let's jump in. This is the La Marzocco Linea PB, and this is the 2-group model. This does not have the ABR or auto brew ratio scales that you can get with this machine, which is a really cool add-on. This machine has volumetric buttons for your doses and a volumetric button for your hot water. You do get 2 doses per button. So if you press this once, it gives you your 1 dose. And then if you press and hold it, it'll give you another dose or a longer dose. And it's flashing quickly to let you know that you're on that dose setting. So technically you do have 4 doses here with just these 2 buttons. I don't know if I've met someone who's using that long button for in the programming there, but it is a nice feature to have just extra options there. If you noticed on this, we do have the pre-brew turned on. So I'll show you the difference here. Get that out. So this group, it'll start and then stop and then start brewing again. The goal of that is to bloom the coffee a little bit. The basket doesn't get fully pressurized if it's just on for a second because it's not full of water to create that pressure yet. So having that waiting period really helps with some channeling and also just get a little bit more flavor out of the coffee. This group does not have the pre-brew setting on, so it just goes straight into it. Because these have smaller flow restrictors, they're letting less water through, so they do have kind of a natural pressure ramp up as the basket is pressurized more slowly instead of just dumping a ton of water on it. So it's not technically a pre-infusion, but it does do, it is a little bit more kind to the coffee. You have your 2 steam wands. These are not insulated or cool touch, so they do have these little rubber grips on them to keep you from burning yourself. You will see oftentimes that these types of steam wands do get a little bit more milk on them because this gets hot and it's easier for milk to stick on them. The programming on these machines is some of the best that I've seen, some of my favorite. So hold down this button here. It's a little bit different than your usual machines. These buttons become your scroll buttons that help you scroll through all your settings. And then to program, you go into group dose settings, program volume dose, and then you have your 2 buttons right here that you're programming by just pressing those and it'll go for you. And then enter to exit. And then you can also come into here and you can edit how many pulses that the flow meter is counting. I talk more about that in the review of this machine, so I'm not going to get in there right now, but it is a cool function to have. You don't have to re-pull a shot. If you didn't like it, if you want to shorten it or lengthen it, you can just edit those pulses. Another nice feature is this copy dose feature. I can select this button. Oh man, I'm doing it wrong. I'm going to exit out of that. I can come into here and I can select this, so I can copy this, and then I can paste this button to here. So then if I can, I can go out of there and then back in and copy this button and put it over there. So instead of a traditional machine where you would program the far left group and it would copy to everything down the line, you're actually going in manually and copying and pasting your dose. I prefer that, but it may not be what certain people are used to. Here's where we program our hot water. Jump into there. That'll allow me to enable or disable that. So then that's my hot water. I do have the ability to program a long dose. So if I hold I enter in here, now that is, I can also edit that way. Exit out of that and show you how that functions. So if I just press it, that's my regular dose. Similar to the groups, if I press and hold, that's going to be my long dose is what they call it. You can set it however you want it, but it's more likely going to be your long dose. As you probably noticed, this is kind of spluttery. It doesn't have any sort of mix valve to it. So it is water that's fresh off of the steam or service boiler. So it is very, very hot. I wouldn't use it for a drink or anything like that, but it's great for mixing right into, or great for rinsing a shot glass, I should say. This is a dual boiler machine. It's stainless steel boilers. The boilers are insulated, so it does retain heat pretty well. Has very good heat stability. If you notice right here, it has a heat readout. We have this set at 203 degrees, and it'll stay pretty true to that. It might go a degree under or half a degree under or half a degree over, but it's gonna stay pretty similar to that. Because there is one shared boiler for the coffee groups, if I pull a shot here, it's going to drop the temperature of the whole boiler. So then if I pull a shot here, this group is affecting the temperature of this group because those are connected. Not something you really notice in the day-to-day life of a shop, but if you're trying to pull two exact espressos, it's going to be a little bit difficult to do that because you can affect temperature swings by pulling a shot on this one and then this one right after. This has about 4,600 watts to both those boilers. It's about average for a dual boiler machine. It's a 220 volt machine and then requires a 30 amp circuit. Those are all things that you'd find on a spec sheet for that machine. That's kind of a general overview of this machine. We'll make a drink at the end so we can see what it looks like to make a drink on this machine. But now that we're done talking about this, let's jump over to the Rocket Espresso R9. Here we have the Rocket Espresso R9. And this is the 2-group model right next to that Linea PB that we were just talking about. This one is a little bit wider than the Linea is, but it's a little bit shorter than the Linea is, so it's definitely easier to see over. That's with the same feet on it, so your health department is happy that you can wipe out underneath the machine. This, as I said, is the 2-group model. It has all your programming buttons up here, your volumetric buttons. This is your manual run button, and then you have a button for a single shot, a double shot, and your hot water. Very similar to the Linea, but this does not give you the ability to hold for a longer dose. It's just one dose per button, and we'll talk about the programming more in a second here. The steam wands on this machine are lever actuated and they hold pretty good. They're also cool touch, so the milk doesn't stick to them as easily and you don't burn yourself. So that's definitely a good feature to have. We're seeing that on a lot more machines that are coming out. They have this insulated steam wand instead of just a regular steam pipe that heats up quite a bit. These machines, this is kind of an update as well. I was pulling a shot earlier. New portafilters with this machine. They now have an angled handle, and this is fully stainless steel, which is similar to the one on the La Marzocco. These also now come with precision baskets. They're IMS precision baskets, and big upgrade, I think, in just your day-to-day coffee quality. Makes a big difference in my opinion. Why don't we jump into the programming a little bit here. It's pretty simple. You just hold down your program button or continuous run button until it starts flashing. Any buttons that are not lit up have been programmed already. I believe, we're pretty sure that that means that it's been programmed within the last 24 hours. And if it hasn't been programmed in the last 24 hours, it would be lit up like this double shot button here. It's a nice feature to have. Similar on the La Marzocco, but if you're coming in the morning or if you're coming in the middle of the day and you want to quality check your baristas or your staff, you can tell whether or not they reprogrammed it the next day. So that is a nice feature on both of these machines. Jump in here one more time. And there we go. So I'm going to program this button. Say I want it to go for 4 seconds. So now both of these are not lit up. I could come in here and program this one for 2 seconds. And then let me scroll out of there. This one's still going to run for 4 seconds. But this one's now going to run for 2 seconds. So if you program this one first, it overrides this group, but then you can come back in and reprogram any groups on the right side of this far left group. This is kind of your root, your home group, and then these ones you can program individually after you program this one. Most shops aren't using individual programming for these, but something to consider there. This machine also does have the pre-brew option that the Linea has. That one we had turned on for 1 second on, 2 seconds off, and then it starts your actual brew cycle. This can do the same thing. You can change it however you'd like, any number of seconds on, any number of seconds off, and then your brew will start. We don't have that turned on in here right now, but it is a possibility. If you notice, I have a temperature readout right here. These temperatures are controlled independently because there are 2 independent brew boilers instead of 1 large brew boiler like there is on the Linea. These 2 independent brew boilers are not insulated like they are on the Linea. Personally, I don't know how much of a difference that makes. It's really difficult to say without doing rigorous testing on it. But if you pull a shot on this group, it's not going to affect the temperature of this group. This is your program temperature here. So this is not a real-time readout of your temperature, but we found that the temperature does not vary very much. Doesn't vary quite as much as it does on the Linea, which is maybe a ½ degree on either side, especially because they're both sharing that one group or that one boiler there. This machine does have about 5,600 watts, which is about 1,000 more than the Linea, just dealing with that extra boiler in there, the 2 independent brew boilers. The steam boiler on this is also a little bit bigger than it is on the Linea. Both of them are going to be able to keep up just fine, but this one's going to have a slightly higher amp draw, still a 30 amp circuit that's required, but it's just going to be higher in the 20s than that one being in the low 20s. And they're both going to be 220 volt range machines. That covers a lot of the kind of basic functions of this machine. I'd say that the numbers for your shot counter are definitely a little bit easier to see than they are just on the small screen on the Linea. And also having kind of a heads-up temperature display here. Again, that's telling you what the temperature is programmed at and is pretty true to what your actual temperature is. But then you don't have baristas getting worried. Why don't we go ahead and make a drink on each of these? I'll do a quick taste test and see if I can come up with any differences on them. Since we started with the Linea at first, we'll go ahead and start with the R9 this time. Today, we're using the Olympus 75 from Eureka, one of our favorite grinders. And then we also have the 1950 from Verve down in California. I've been drinking a little bit of this on these 2 machines and I'm really liking it. Haven't had it a lot as espresso, but it's tasting pretty good. My goal is about 20 grams in. And I'm trying to do about a 2-to-1 ratio, which means I'll have about 40 grams out. And I had this #1 button programmed for that. So here we go. All right, that is done. All right, and right at 32 seconds. Let's see what we can do here. All right, so there's cappuccino number 1. And let's get set for cappuccino number 2. Perfect. And there is cappuccino number 2. Just in making drinks on these 2 machines, it was interesting. This shot pulled for a little bit longer, and we had very similar parameters in shot weight and then in tamp and everything else. So part of me thinks that this has a slightly smaller flow restrictor in it than that one does. And then also my technique might just be a little bit inconsistent here. Let's go ahead and do a quick taste test. I will say it might just be that I've steamed on it in a cafe environment for a while, but it did seem like the Linea was a little bit easier to steam on. Flavor-wise, that is really good. That's pretty much exactly what I was hoping for. Yeah, and right about the same. I would say the drink quality off of both of them is really similar. I mean, they're both giving you the right pressure at the right temperature and doing a good job of keeping that consistent. So I would expect them to produce very equal level of espresso between the 2 of them there. I think some of the features of the R9, like the insulated steam wands and the hot water, are nice add-ons. They're definitely cool to have. Some of the ergonomics of the R9, like the way this drip tray is, aren't as refined as they are on the Linea. The Linea has been around for a whole lot longer. Having that independent control of your boilers is something that the Linea doesn't have, but it is really hard, in my opinion, to beat the programming menu of the Linea if that's something that you're looking for. If you're looking for easy programming and more robust programming, the Linea is a good bet there. If you're looking for something that isn't quite as well known and is still going to make great coffee, the R9 is a great choice as well. I don't think you can go wrong with either of these machines. They're both going to be great bets for your cafe. One thing to remember is these are both stainless steel machines, so you definitely need to take a hard look, or stainless steel boiler machines, so you need to take a hard look at your water filtration and the water you're putting into the machines to make sure you're going to get a long life out of the machines. Not so much with temperature control or anything like that, but just in the longevity of the boilers. With the good water in them, they will last a very long time though. I hope you guys enjoyed this crew comparison. It was informative for you. If you have any questions about either of those machines, leave them in the comments below. If you ever thought about opening up a coffee shop or just have questions about equipment, feel free to give us a call. We'd love to chat with you and talk about the differences in equipment and what would be a good bet for you. You can check out both these machines on our website. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you haven't already, if you want to see more videos, and have a great day.